The Houston Rockets are 5-1 in January. They put off some really good wins, and they have some cushion now at the second seed in the West. So we're going to be talking about what this Rockets team can do in the playoffs and Jalen Green's hot start to the month. Can he keep it up? And more to come with the Houston Rockets. So stay tuned for this episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show.
All right, and welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. Today we are joined by a first-time guest of the show, very special guest, RedNationBlogga. It is just RedNationBlogga on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all that good stuff, right?
Everywhere.
Right? RedNationBlogga on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Y'all tap in with him. He's been checking in with us and playback a lot recently. Was on his podcast of the day. Good people, good conversation. Team at the game. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I gotta tell y'all, man, it's like hearing that intro and being a part of it, lit. It's fucking lit. Because I watch y'all like when I be at the J and I just be like, damn, hearing that, I was like, that's lit. That's great.
This is a long time coming. We should have got you on here a lot sooner.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I wanted to give you your flowers. One for tapping in with us on the playback. That's what we live watch every single Rockets game.
Mm-hmm.
RedNationBlogga is on every single time, and I always see you in our comments. Mm-hmm. So I'm talking to him like, man, we gotta get this guy on the show. We're tripping.
Of course, man. No, that's cool. I just like watching the game. I ain't tripping. It's all good.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with you today. Y'all heard the intro. You know, the Rockets hot start to the month, cushion at the second seed. Jalen is averaging 30 right now in January. So we gonna kick it to you. What do you think about Jalen so far? And you think he can keep it up?
Jalen is on a tear, man. I think like he's like 30 at like 50, 40, 90. Yep. I don't know if that's sustainable. I'm not even asking for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I was asking earlier in the season, can you give us 22 to 23 a game? Right now he's at 21 overall for the season. Just got to that number, you know, but this efficiency and this tear that he's on is phenomenal considering the fact that there's no Jabari Smith, considering the fact that Tari Eason is out. You know, him playing like this has allowed a lot of other things that I have been saying will happen. You know, it's happening now. Fred VanVleet taking a back seat, pace being better, Ime trusting him more with the ball to initiate offense in the two-man game with Sengun. Like everything is predicated upon Jalen Green's like play on the perimeter, and seeing him do what he do is, I love it. I'm happy. This is what I've always wanted.
Yeah. Will, what do you think?
I think Red Nation hit a lot of talking points on the head. Like I feel like me and him have been agreeing on a lot of things we talk about when it comes to the Rockets. The biggest thing we talked about a little bit last episode was just Jalen Green becoming the player that he's becoming so far this, start 2025. I think it's had a couple of effects, right? One of the biggest of which to me is now I can have Fred VanVleet go back to the third, maybe even fourth option role, depending upon the night. And he doesn't have to go out there and put up 15 plus shots a night like he was at sometimes this season. Like I think he's averaging, I should look it up. I want to say he's averaging like 8 shots a game in 20. Let me look it up real quick. I know I tweeted it out like yesterday.
It's around there. I was looking at the stats.
I'm gonna find it. He's averaging so he's only taking 10. He's taking 10 shots a game. And I think that's also somewhat skewed. I believe last game he took 5, but it was a game earlier where I think he took like 13 or 15, something like that. But I love what I'm seeing from Fred VanVleet, and I do believe that a huge part of that is because Jalen Green has stepped up and allowed Fred VanVleet to step back. And so I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jalen. I've been on this podcast, on TikTok, on Twitter. I've been like the loudest voice of the Devin Booker to Houston thing. I really wanted that to happen. And I feel, there was even news about that today, honestly, but I feel my stance on that has always been the same though. Like the preferred outcome is and always will be that Jalen Green is just the in-house Devin Booker, and we don't have to go look for that externally, because that opens up so many in terms of what you can do with the roster this season, but also what you can do with the roster moving forward. Because now you don't have to trade all those picks and players for a Devin Booker. Now you can trade them for something else. Maybe you can keep them. Maybe you can draft high every year. Like there's so many different rabbit holes you can go down that unlock. If Jalen Green is good, you don't have to make that consolidation trade. Goodness. And the last thing I want to say is we are, 6 games in 2025? Is that where we're at right now, Brad? Six games in?
Correct.
6
Yeah,
games. Yeah.
5-1.
Yeah,
Yep.
6 games. Okay, so it's been 6 games, and he's played really, really well in 6 games. I know, like, if you look at certain sample sizes, the numbers say he's played well since this month or that month. I'll say that in 2025 he's played amazing, and for me, I don't need Red Nation kind of touched on it. I don't need him to average 30 for the rest of the year, although that would be nice. You don't
Yeah.
have to average 30 for the rest of the year. I don't think that's system up. He's shooting like 45% from three on like 10 attempts a night, which, if Jaylen Green shoots that way for the rest of the year, he's like the best shooter in the league almost. So I don't think he's going to shoot that efficient from three every night. So I do think that there's going to be a bit of a regression to the mean in terms of his points per game and his efficiency. But for me, that what will save him for me personally from like the Devin Booker trade conversations or looking for like a Zach LaVine or it's any conversation that does not result in Jaylen Green being the starting shooting guard of the Houston Rockets next season. What save him from that for me is I don't need you to average 30 for the rest of the year. Would be nice. Don't need you to do that, but cut out the lows. All right, instead of the nights where you're, because there's gonna be nights where he goes for 30 and 40 plus, but on the nights where it would be like 18, 19 points per game on like 7 of 25 shooting, cut those nights out and turn those nights into, if your off nights are now 22 points on like 57 true shooting. Like if that's what the low end are, and you still have the high ends, like that'll save him for me. And if you can do that for the rest of the year, you're afforded an off night, once every like 2 weeks or something like that. Like you can have an off night, but cutting out the off nights from happening multiple times a week, right? Keep the highs, but get those lows to like more of like a median outcome in between the two. If you do that for the rest of the year, I'll have no problem completely walking back the Devin Booker take and saying that Jaylen Green's starting shooting guard this team moving forward.
Yeah. What I've seen from Jaylen this year, I mean, every single game he's came out there and dropped 20 plus points. The first game he had 22. Since then, it's been 27 plus nightly. And you guys, I agree with every single thing that both of you guys just said. Main thing is Fred being able to take a back seat. And I want to say, I think Roosh may have said it, someone said it, but he goes from like a really bad second option to one of the best fourth options in the league now because you have a man that's ascending as well. What Fred does, he's a perfect compliment. I can't speak to you. I'm not even going to try to say that word.
Compliment.
Yes, he's a perfect compliment to what this Rockets young core is. When he's just getting everybody in their sets, taking care of the rock, and he's finding people who's hitting open catch and shoot threes. That's his strong suit. He was a championship player on the Toronto Raptors coming off the bench. And this Fred VanVleet, Will and I are on record saying we wanted him as a lifetime Rocket before the season started, and we were terrified as the season was going on. But he's looking like a guy who could come off the bench in the upcoming years playing this role. It's beneficial to this basketball team, what he's been able to do in January for Jalen Green especially. Oh, it's really more so Jalen. This has also been a huge combo. People are saying, well, Jalen's getting off because Fred's taking a backseat. It's more so Jalen's getting off and Fred can now take a backseat.
That's what I've been saying like this whole time. You know what I mean? Like everybody keeps saying he needs to take a back seat, but it's like he can't take a back seat when he has the 19 points on 7 of 25 shooting, like Will said. Like he can't take a back seat at that point. At that point, Fred has to press. He has to look for his shot more. You know what I mean? And I really, in all honesty, I do believe that a lot of Jalen's resurgence and a lot of him playing this well to start the new year was when Jabari went down, unfortunately. And I believe that I believe having 3 ball handlers in the starting lineup is like, and one, dribble handoff big that can score in the low post. Like having somebody like that, I think that's what's opened up Jalen's game more than anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was going to piggyback off of. Oh, go ahead, Brad.
No, I want you to go ahead. Will.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to piggyback off of that point too. I think another thing that's really helped aid Jaylen Green in his elevation of his game that, to this point, we don't know if he's going to sustain it. But if he does, and what's kind of helping get to this point, I do believe is Amen Thompson starting. I think what RedNationBlogga said, it's introduced another ball handler in the starting lineup who can push the pace, particularly in transition. That's one of the areas where Amen Thompson is really, really good at, is just getting the ball and going. There was 2 plays that stood out to me last game against the Grizzlies where that kind of exemplified itself. It was the play where Amen Thompson ran. I think he drove like from the right side of the court, jumped in the air, and like the whole defense collapsed. Jalen's wide on the top of the key. And those are like looks that, I love Fred, I love Shingun, No one else on the team can do that. But Amin, that's the only guy on the roster who's able to get Jalen that kind of look. And then there was the play where Amin had glassed. I forgot who it was. He glassed somebody, grabbed the rebound, pushed it in transition, and once again drove. He saw Jalen at the wing, wide open, just took a step back three, cashed it. I'm gonna be real. If that shot don't go in, we probably lose. Like that was a huge momentum shifter on the outcome of that game. And so those are just two plays off the top of my head that I can think of where Amin made a real impact and it positively impacted Jalen, among the other things, because Amin does a little bit of everything for this team. But I do believe that having somebody else out there who can push the tempo, who can find Jalen in more creative ways than what we've already seen, I think that does help elevate Jalen's play. And I think that's documented dating all the way back to like last season, like March 2024, when Jalen was going crazy. Amin Thompson was starting all those games. Yeah. That was when Jalen went down with the injury. And Amin Thompson, so.
Yeah, and I was going to piggyback exactly off of what Will just said. Going back to March of 2024, when Amin started, and they had a huge winning streak. When those two start together, Jaylen Green is averaging, I had the stats pulled up, he's averaging 24.8 on a 60.6 true shooting percentage, 47, 41, 83 splits. And the Rockets are 20-6 in games, or now 21-6 after that last game, I believe. Actually, no, it's 20-6 with Amin and Jalen starting together. So that's a combo. You can't break that up. It's not a fluke. They look way better when those two are starting together. And that conversation that was had all summer, because Sengun went down, Amin was in the starting lineup, like, oh, the Rockets, the pace is so much better when Sengun's off the floor. No, it's not Sengun. It's Amin Thompson.
Wasn't Jalen playing well though last season before Sengun went down? Like he was starting to play well. He exploded when Sengun got hurt, but he wasn't still playing like really bad.
I'm not gonna say that Amin is making Jalen, but Amin's minutes were also on the uptick around that point of time.
Yeah, for sure. They had a lot of injuries.
Yeah, I said this is when Dylan got hurt. And then remember, Amin got hurt to start the season. And so when he came back, he was sick and had to kind of ramp himself back up. So like February, March was when Amin was finally back to game speed and could play 35, 40 minutes a night again.
Yeah. So having those two in the starting lineup together is crucial going forward. We talked about in the last episode. We'll see what happens when Barr gets back. But happy to see Jalen have this hot start to the month. It takes them to a different level. And that brings us to our next topic and our final topic. What can these Houston Rockets do this season? They're now 26-12. They are 3 losses ahead of the next seed in the West. I think it's Denver at the moment. And Memphis too, because they just beat Memphis back to back. But you got to have the combo. Adam Wexler put it on Twitter. The Rockets are 11-3 against the top 8 teams in the Western Conference. 2 of those losses come to OKC. And off the top of my head, the other one, I can't think of it, but it'll come to me eventually. But amazing start to the season, and we'll go to our guest, RedNationBlogga. What can these Rockets do in the playoffs? Me personally, OKC. I know
it's Minnesota. That's who we lost to.
Minnesota, and they were in that game.
Only once we lost to them, not twice.
Yeah, so the other 2 were to OKC.
Okay. I got what you're saying. I thought you said we lost to 2 other.
Oh no! Yes,
my bad.
Okay,
you're good.
Yeah, got you.
We beat the Clippers 3 times. Is it 2, 3 times?
3 times. Against the Clippers.
Oh, 3. Damn.
Beat the Mavericks. Beat the Grizzlies. So yeah.
What you about to ask me, Brad? I apologize. What's up?
Yeah. So with them, all that being said, Rockets second seed. They're doing good with the injuries. Doing good against the top teams in the West. What do you think? The Houston Rockets could do in the playoffs?
Oh man, like going into this season, I may have been like the only person. Well, I'm not gonna say the only person, but I was one of the few people that thought this team could get to 50 to 55 wins. Like I firmly felt like that. Just based off of last season, the injuries, and just doing the math. Like if we don't miss this many guys, we win this many games. It's basic math. So I always said first round exit, second round at best. But that was because I never envisioned a version like this of Jalen Green emerging. And again, I don't think this is sustainable. 30 points per game on 50, 40, 90 is like elite first team all NBA type stuff. So I don't know if that is, but if that's the version we're going to get, then Western Conference Finals, like other people have said. But it all depends on matchups. It all depends on health. It all depends on how the cards shake. One of the things that I see that will prevent this team from getting to that next step is like a Memphis, like a Minnesota, like an OKC, you have to go through the battles, and you have to technically you have to lose in order to know how to win. And unless we get a super favorable matchup or a team that is super depleted by injuries, I see this team losing to potentially a Dallas or, well, obviously OKC, but a team that is on par with us, even like a Memphis. Like, we've owned them obviously in the regular season series, but they've been through the trials and the tribulations. They've lost to Golden State, they've lost to LA. They know they've won playoff series in the past. Like, so I think that playoff experience will matter more so come playoff time. Fred and Dylan have that experience. Steven Adams has that experience, but I don't think that because they are the players who they are and they play the role that they play, I don't think it's going to be enough. Jalen doesn't have the experience. Sengun doesn't have the experience. I'm in. So not knowing what to expect could be a good thing in terms of they're ignorant. They don't know that they're not supposed to be there, or it could be a bad thing where they're overwhelmed, and it could be whatever the case may be. So we'll see. With Ime Udoka and how he coaches his team, though, who knows, man? Who knows? I'm happy though. I'm riding out. I'm glad that people saying Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and well, I'll let you close on this one. I'll start. Yeah, it's tough. When I look at the Rockets on a night-to-night basis, I'm not scared of any team in the Western Conference outside of OKC. I think there's no chance they can beat OKC in the series. I just
Okay,
like,
we'll be on the same page.
and that's cool, and I'm cool with saying that. And OKC is just they're on a different level. They're up there with Boston and Cleveland. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Cleveland. They're up there with Boston, but the Rockets. Yeah, I like every matchup in the West. They have those demons with Golden State. If they see them in a series, what happens? I think they can beat them. Outside of that, Minnesota could be tough with Ant. Dallas could be tough, but I mean, I look at all those matchups and the Houston Rockets can win those games because one, they have elite defense, and it starts with that. When you have an elite defense, you can beat a lot of teams, and they're finally figuring out, what's going on offense. If Jalen is playing like this, as you mentioned, he's not going to be, or maybe he is. We'll see. If he's first,
hopefully,
30 points, 50, 40, 90, this is a different team. We're going to have to start talking about some different things. But yeah, I mean, this team has a really high ceiling. What they're doing right now without Jabari and Tari is saying a lot, because that's how good this team is. When you literally just put them into the starting lineup, it makes them that much better. So now, assumingly, we'll have Tari and Bari coming off the bench, get some more wing depth. And as Will has mentioned, Jabari adds a different element to this team. You can bring a different style of play. They've missed it in this January, even though they're 6-1. There's been some times where we're getting killed on drop and teams are exposing our bigs, and we can just throw Jabari right there and kill all of that.
Correct.
So getting that guy back, getting Tari back, hopefully, we'll see. This team can definitely piss off some cities and game 7 in the second round. Again, you can look at the Thunder last year. They lost in the second round in game 7 to a good Dallas team. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, yeah, we're going to the Western Conference Finals. I'm not going to be delusional. It really is dependent on matchup and experience. As RedNationBlogga said, the playoffs really comes down to experience. And we do have guys like Dylan and Fred who've been there before, and Steve-O. That's going to help for sure. But a lot of our main pieces, Sengun, and the whole team, I'm not even going to list off everybody. We all know the Rockets young core has not been to the playoffs. They're used to being at the bottom of the league, and last season 41-41. So we'll see what happens comes that time. Ime is a great coach. He'd be the runaway favorite for Coach of the Year if it wasn't for Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland having them at 33-5. I still don't know how they're 33-5. Props to them. But yeah, for me right now, just not looking at matchups, I think they get to the second round and force like a game 7. But again, I'm not scared of any team unless it's Oklahoma City. They played Denver. Say it again.
I like that confidence. I really do.
Yeah. We haven't seen Denver yet. We played Denver. We're recording the night they play Denver, so we'll see how they look against them. That may change my stance. But outside of literally OKC, I think it's cool for you, sir. What about you, Will? You're on.
So yeah, I think that experience is the ultimate thing that's going to hold the Rockets back. I was concerned about our backcourt a lot earlier as well, but if Jaylen Green can sustain this level of play, that will allow Fred to take a back seat a little bit. So I won't be as concerned about our backcourt in the postseason, but I still will be concerned about the level of experience. Young teams just historically do not do well in their first playoff experience. Like that's one of the reasons why I really want them to get that experience now, because there's no expectations, there's no it's not championship or bust. Like, we're playing with house money right now, so getting that expectation, getting that experience out the way now when there are no expectations is better than waiting a year or two where we do have expectations and it's like, okay, you're getting shell shock for the first time in a year where it matters. But they're going to get shell shocked. We saw how they looked in the in-season tournament. They look scared. Shingun and Jalen, love both of them. They look very, very scared, and that was like a preview of what a playoff environment will look like. I do think that our success and how far we go ultimately does depend on who we match up with. So I have the standings right now. If things were to stay the way they are today, we play the Lakers in the first round, which that's a coin toss to me, because LeBron and Anthony Davis in the playoff setting, I don't think we match up the best with the Lakers because of their size. We saw what they did to us the last time we played them. We won that game, but they made us work in pick and roll defense, and that's going to be all the playoffs are times 10. And so I don't know if we're going to be ready for that. So I think we could beat them because they are a little bit older, and we're younger. We can run faster than them, but betting against LeBron and Anthony Davis in a playoff series is never going to be smart. So I'm going to say that's a coin toss for me. Fortunately, we probably want to play a team like Memphis because they're probably going to be too close to us in the standings to where we played them in the first round. So I don't know, but Memphis is another team who I don't feel confident in a series because they do have more experience than we do. Denver, I think we lose to. I think we lose to Dallas. The Clippers, it depends on how healthy they are and what version of Kawhi Leonard is playing. If it's the Kawhi Leonard that we know from like 2-3 seasons ago, we lose. If it's the Kawhi Leonard from this season where it's like he's still kind of wrapping himself back up to speed, and which to be fair, you never know with Kawhi. He's never healthy, so you never know. So if Kawhi Leonard's the version we kind of know today where it's up and down, I think we beat the Clippers. Minnesota, that's another one where I think we can win. I think that's a series that we can win. But they do have a bit more experience than us, and Anthony Edwards has the ability to play like the best player in the league on any given night. So that one's going to be tough, but I think we can win. So of the teams I looked at, the only teams where I feel very confident in, honestly, is Minnesota and the Clippers. Everybody else, I think, either beats us or is a coin toss. And it's not because I think this team sucks. It's just the playoffs are a different game. It's a different experience. And like I said, we've seen how shell shocked young teams look in their first ever playoff series. Like we saw the in-season tournament. Like I said, those were like simulation of playoff games. And Jalen and Shingun look shell shocked. That mind you, that was against the Thunder when they looked the crazy, and that's probably like the worst team for us to match up with. But outside of that, though, so like, do I think what I think is going to happen? I think depending on who we play with in the first round, I think no matter what happens, we're a competitive first round exit. No matter what, I think worst case scenario, this team goes to the playoffs and gives a team a hard run for their money in the first round. I think that there is a world where depending on who we match up with, we do go to the second round. I think 100% the run ends there. I don't see a conference finals running us this year, unfortunately, just because we're still young. And we still need experience. That means if we get to the second round, probably means we're playing a team. Like assuming everything depends on the way it was, we would play Memphis the second round. And I love us. We beat the brakes off Memphis 3 times this year. It's a different game. They've been there a couple of times, before us, and we know Ja can elevate his play to that level. So in a 7-game series, I don't know if I would take us over a Memphis Grizzlies team right now, but. I let my plan by saying it's a lot of basketball left to be played. And if they start showing me some of these last couple of games, it's like, nah, they're just too good to where forget experience. Like they might be ready to go for it right now. Maybe I'll change my stance. But as of today, I think no matter what, we're a competitive first round team. I think that the run will end no matter what in the second round.
I saw you laughing. RedNation. What were you gonna say?
No, because you were so optimistic, and Will is like the realist. And like I could tell Will is listening to like the realistic side of his brain and trying to leave the fandom alone. And I appreciate that. I want to say, like, I think y'all might have heard me say this. I really feel like deep down it's going to be the Clippers in the first round with James Harden. I feel that way. I see it happening. It's just like when we first got Harden, they matched up with OKC in the first round. Like the first year, you know what I mean? I just feel like it's like poetic Even when we had Westbrook, we got Westbrook from OKC, who we match up with in the first round. OKC. Like, I just feel like it's poetic and hardness in the West, and Houston is competitive. I think Clippers finish about 7. I think that's what they're going to finish. Houston's going to remain at 2, and I think it's going to be a 2-7 matchup. I really do. I think that's going to be the first round.
Would you say use like a 3-6 matchup? I feel like that might. I feel like we might probably in the season fall to like 3, and then they stay at 6, and we can get them that way.
Maybe we fall to 3. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, they have a tough stretch coming up.
They do.
That includes,
and it's a couple teams that are like hot on our trail, right? Like Memphis and Denver are right there.
Denver,
Memphis and Denver are right there. But the stretch of games we have, when you have Cleveland on a back-to-back, you got Boston the next game after that. Then again, you got Memphis. You already beat Memphis 3 times, so they're gonna go into that game like, you're not beating us. You're not sweeping.
I was on national television.
I already know how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I'll say we don't do too well on national television, man.
I already know how it's gonna go. Yep.
Yeah, I want to see how they finish the month. But again, different ball game when they get Tari and Barry back. I think this team. Will said, Memphis again. It comes down to experience. It's an injury-prone team, so I never know with them. But assuming every team is healthy, Will, he's not being a pessimist. I mean, he's being logical here. Playoffs are really a different animal. And while I can sit here and say, I'm not scared of Memphis, and in playoffs it is different. At the end of the day, even though I think they beat Memphis, I disagree.
This is the team that 2 years ago they was given the reigning champ. Like the team that went on to win the whole thing. The Grizzlies low-key had them on the line. Like they could have beat the Warriors that year. And I mean,
got hurt.
Yeah, say Ja, his knee started messing up, and then Dylan Brooks CTE started acting up. But other than that, like they were. I think would that game go to 7? I know it at least went to 6.
It went 6.
Okay, I know at least went 6. But yeah, like they were. It was a competitive series, and that was a Warriors that went on to win the whole thing. I know it's a different team. Like Dylan Brooks isn't there anymore. Tyus Jones isn't there anymore. There's probably a couple other pieces that aren't there anymore. But my point is like we know that when this Grizzlies team is healthy, they are good. Like no disrespect, they're a good basketball team.
They're really good.
So, yeah, and they are battle. They're more battle tested than we are.
Yeah,
by a couple of playoff series. So
yeah, it'll be fun. But RedNationBlogga, we appreciate you coming on the show. It's not going to be the last time. Go ahead and tell people where they can find you at if they don't know already.
Oh man, all platforms, RedNationBlogga. Y'all see it in the back. Been doing this for a while, y'all. Just follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do like Rockets content. I try to do a post-game reaction after every single game. Some nights I have to do stuff, but I've been cutting off a lot of people lately just to do my post-game reaction. So, just lock in with me, subscribe, and, take the journey with me.
There you go. And as for us, that's it for this episode. Will and I are going to come back soon. It's getting close to February 1st. Will and I are having the Rockets Twitter night. Again, we keep our link in the description. If y'all want to pull up, we still have some seats to that. And as always, tap into to the playback. And thank y'all. We just hit 3K subs. I don't know if you saw Will. But we appreciate y'all for tapping in. 3K subs is a big accomplishment for us. So we'll keep pushing. But that concludes this episode. Appreciate y'all always tapping in. We'll be back soon.